Hey, what's going on, guys? Brian from Zombie Guitar here. This lesson is about the Aeolian mode. Okay, so this is part 6 of the mode series, and this is the Aeolian mode. Now, the Aeolian mode is just another word for natural minor key. Alright, most music that you hear, at least in Western popular rock music and pop and stuff like that, most songs are written in either the Ionian mode, which is the major key, or the Aeolian mode, which is the minor key. Okay, generally, stuff that you hear on the radio is not written in other modes. Chords can be borrowed here and there from other modes, but generally things are written in either the Ionian mode or the Aeolian mode. Okay, so Aeolian mode is just another word for the natural minor key. All right, so let's first start out with the scale formula. Alright, so just as we did for the other previous 5 parts, everything is an A type of mode, okay? We did A Ionian, A Dorian, A Phrygian, A Lydian, A Mixolydian, now we're on A Aeolian. Alright, so A Aeolian, also known as A natural minor. So the scale formula is taking from the major scale, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The formula for the minor scale, or the Aeolian mode, is you flatten the 3rd degree, you flatten the 6th degree, and you flatten the 7th degree for new scale formula. 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. Okay, so that's your natural minor scale formula. And taken in 2 octaves. Okay, so it's just your natural minor scale, okay, or your Aeolian mode natural minor, same thing. Alright, so now let's take a look at the chords that are in this mode and uses for the mode, okay? Okay, uses for the Aeolian mode. Alright, so like I said, the Aeolian mode is just another word for natural minor. Alright, so if you're not used to modes or talking or thinking in modal terms, you've probably heard major key and minor key before, okay? Or you probably heard that song is written in C major or F major or G minor or B minor or something like that, okay? The Aeolian mode is just interchangeable with minor, okay? This is just a minor key, that's all it is. So you can write chord progressions in it, okay? You can take any of the chords that are found in the Aeolian mode and you can play them in any order, and you can play chord progressions, okay? And that chord progression will just be in a minor key, alright? So, like the major key, we have 6 chords. There's 7 in total, but there's 1 that we don't really use very often, alright? And we'll get to that in a second. So, let's take a look at those chords. So, your 1 chord in the Aeolian mode would be a minor chord. Your 2 chord, that's that 1 chord that we don't really use that much. It's a half diminished chord. Okay, so your 2 chord is half diminished. Your 3 chord is major. Your 4 chord is minor. Your 5 chord is minor. Your 6 chord is major, and your 7 chord is major. Alright, so when you're in a minor key, the 6 chords that you're using are your 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 chords. And you can use those chords in any order that you'd like and make a chord progression with it, okay? Tons and tons and tons of songs are written in minor keys, and I'm sure you heard it all the time. So I can literally just play any of the chords in any order. Okay, so I was just randomly selecting chords, and they all kind of work together. They all flow together, and your overall tonality is the the A minor chord. 6 chords, chord progressions are written in the minor key. All right. One thing I wanted you to notice was that if you look at the 6 chords that are on the screen here, you see that the 1, 4, and 5 chords are all minor, okay? And they're all the same thing. The 1, 4, and 5 are all the same. In a major key, the 1, 4, and 5 chords are also all the same. All right, if you're in a major key, your 1, 4, and 5 chords are major. But now we're in a minor key, so your 1, 4, and 5 chords are all minor. All right, and then there's 6 total chords. All right, so the other 3 are simply just the opposite of what the 1, 4, and 5 are. So you can look at the Aeolian mode and the Ionian mode as kind of like polar opposites to one another. Your 1, 4, and 5 are the same. The other 3 chords that you use are the opposite. And then there's that one chord that's a half diminished chord that you don't really use. Okay, and in the Aeolian mode, it's the 2 chord that you don't really use, the half diminished. In the Ionian mode, it's the 7 chord. That's the half diminished chord, okay? So they're kind of just polar opposites to one another. Alright, so that's basically the gist of what the Aeolian mode is. Now let's take a look at it spanned over the entire fretboard. Alright, so here you have the Aeolian mode spanned across the entire fretboard. Here's the one pattern that we looked at already right here. Okay, that's right there. Then you could look at your relative major. That position would be found right here. So your relative major in the key of A minor is C major. Okay, but of course your tonality is going to be the A. Alright, so you have that pattern. And all these other patterns. This is all diatonic right to the key of A minor. Or Aeolian, whatever you want to call it. You're probably going to refer to it as A minor though. Just because it's easier to say. Alright, so these are all your patterns. Any way you like. And then you could also reduce this to the pentatonic scale. And everything would work just fine. It wouldn't sound as melodic because you'd be removing some notes, of course, but it would, all the notes that you'd be playing would still be in key. Okay, so here's your pentatonic position number 1. Okay, all the 5 pentatonic positions relative to it work fine. Okay, so A minor pentatonic or the full diatonic A minor scale spanned across the fretboard. This all works in the key of A minor. Okay, so one thing I wanted to add here in this series, this is the concept of parallel modes. All right, what we've been doing so far has been parallel modes. We've looked at all A type of modes: A Ionian, A Dorian, A Phrygian, A Lydian, A Mixolydian, A Aeolian, and next we're going to be doing A Locrian. They're all parallel modes of one another. They're all A-rooted modes. Okay? So, as I said in this lesson previously and also in part 1, chord progressions are written in major keys and minor keys. Alright, so you have 6 chords to play with in either key. You can organize those 6 chords in any order you want, and you can write a chord progression, and it's going to be diatonic to either the major key or the minor key. Alright, but a lot of times you're going to see chords that are thrown into chord progressions that are non-diatonic. Okay, and where do those non-diatonic chords come from? How did the composer choose that particular chord? Did he just get lucky? Well, maybe, but more often than not, non-diatonic chords come from parallel modes. Okay, so if you have a chord progression and you're writing a chord progression in the key of A minor, you have 6 chords to play with, as I already talked about. You have your 1, 4, and 5 chords, which are minor. Then you have your other 3 chords, which are the 3, 6, and 7 chords, which are the major chords. And then you have that weird 2 chord, which is a half diminished that you don't really use. But you have 6 chords to play with. Okay, but you also have a whole bunch of other chords that you could experiment with as well. You could look at all the chords that are in A major or A Ionian. you could look at the chords that come from A Dorian. You could look at the chords that come from A Phrygian. Okay, so I'm not going to actually go through each of those. This is going to be a lesson all of its own. Okay, because it's kind of a big concept. But just as a little introduction here, if you're writing something in the key of A minor, and you kind of, you want to throw in an out-of-key chord because you feel like you're just kind of stuck with just those 6 chords. You can only do so much with those 6 chords, and you want to kind of spice up your playing. Well, you could look to other modes. Okay, so an example might be, you may look to the A Dorian mode. Okay, so if you go back to the lesson of the A Dorian mode, we realized that the 1 chord is minor, and then the 4 chord is major in the Dorian mode. Okay, so now back to your to your minor key. You're writing a chord, or you're writing a progression in the key of A minor, and you say, okay, well, I want to throw in a D major now. Okay, so that would be your major 4 chord, and boom, there you go. You just added some interest to your progression. Okay, you can also use these borrowed chords. That's what they're called, borrowed chords, as transitions to change keys. Okay, there's all kinds of stuff you can do. Alright, so I'm going to make another lesson completely about this topic because I don't want to go too off course here, but I just wanted to throw that out there because Ionian modes and Aeolian mode is where you find chord progressions at. You find diatonic chord progressions in both. Alright, but where do these non-diatonic chords come from? Well, they come from parallel modes. Alright, so that's all I'm going to say about that for this lesson. So if you want to hear more about that, check out the upcoming lesson on that concept. Okay, so that's about it for the Aeolian mode. Alright, so just some points to summarize from this lesson. Number 1, the Aeolian mode is just another word for the natural minor key, just like the Ionian mode is just another word for the major key. Alright, another point to take home is chord progressions are written in either minor keys or major keys, or you could also say that chord progressions are written in either the Aeolian mode or the Ionian mode. Alright, and you have 6 chords to choose from, and if you're looking at the Aeolian mode, your 1, 4, and 5 chords are all minor, and then the other 3 chords that you have available to you are the opposite of that, which are major. And then your polar opposite would be the Ionian mode, in which case your 1, 4, and 5 chords are all major, and then your other 3 chords that you have available to you are the opposite of that, which would be minor. Okay, so the Aeolian mode and the Ionian mode are just polar opposites of one another. And also the concept of parallel modes. So if you're writing a chord progression, it doesn't matter if you're writing it in the major key or a minor key, whatever you want to do, you have those 6 chords to choose from in order to be completely diatonic. But if you want to throw in some out-of-key chords, where do you get those chords from? How do you choose those chords? Well, you take a look at parallel modes. Okay, so if you're writing something in the key of A minor, you can look to A major to steal some chords, or you can look to A Dorian to steal some chords, or A Phrygian, or A Mixolydian, or whatever. You can pull chords from those and spice up your chord progressions that way. So that's about it. That's the Aeolian mode, and part 7 is going to be our final part of the series, Locrian. And as always, if you have any questions, just hit me up. Thanks for watching.